Dear Cancer, something sacred is already flowing its way toward you, and it is not drifting in on luck or whim. It carries weight, intention, and the unmistakable scent of destiny. A life-altering flow of emotional abundance is moving closer now, stirred not by chance, but by the quiet forces of emotional justice that have long been watching over your path. You did not find this message by accident. Whether you stumbled across it during a quiet pause in your day, or it found you in a restless night, know this with your whole being. Your energy called it in. You pulled this moment into your orbit the way the moon pulls the tide, steadily, silently, irresistibly. The universe has heard what your spirit has been asking for without words. This video is not a prediction. It is a confirmation. And somewhere deep in your chest, you already feel it landing. That subtle but certain hum of truth. You have arrived in a sacred space where change does not come through guessing, but through deep remembering. This is a moment of recognition, not just of what is coming, but of what you have always known in your bones. And for you, Cancer, the truth arrives like the tide returning to the shore. It does not need to announce itself. You feel it before it speaks. The ledger of your heart has been reviewed line by line. Every quiet prayer whispered into the dark. Every time you offered gentleness when harshness would have been easier, those were not lost moments. They were sacred acts. Each one has been recorded not in some distant sky, but in the very pulse of the emotional ocean within you. And now that spiritual account is ready to release what it has been holding. This is the return, the harvest, for what you endured with compassion. You have held your compassion like a harbor, sheltering lost ships, steady, safe, lasting. You gave from your heart, even when your own well was nearly empty. You stood for light when shadows closed in on every side. And while others may have seen only your sensitivity as a weakness, the unseen realms were taking note, not of your struggle, but of your loyalty. Cancer, you are the one who kept caring, kept loving, even when you received nothing in return. You are the one who did not harden, even when the world around you did. And now you are about to witness what that quiet alignment truly brings. This is why this message matters so deeply. It is not about chance. It is about the way your energy has quietly nurtured the soil for what is now ready to bloom. What is on its way holds your signature, encoded in vibration, wrapped in the shape of everything you have stayed true to. And no one, not the doubters, not the past versions of yourself, not even your own delay in believing, can turn it away now. The shift has already occurred in the spiritual dimension. All that remains is for the physical world to catch up. So let me ask you, Cancer, what did you feel in your body when you saw this title? Was it a flutter in your heart, a quiet sense of knowing that settled deep in your core? Maybe a wave of emotion across your whole being? That was not just intuition, that was resonance. The kind that only happens when the message is meant for you. And if something inside you stirred, I invite you to echo that resonance back, not just silently, but out loud. Write the words, "I am ready to receive," in the comment section below, not as a boast, but as a vow, a signal, a sacred agreement between your spirit and the rhythm of the universe. Say it with openness, with readiness. As one who has patiently tended your garden and now hears the first drops of fulfilling rain, and before I continue, let me say this from the truest part of me. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for tuning into your deeper knowing. Every comment, every like, every time you share this message or subscribe, you are not just supporting a channel. You are adding your light to a field of awakening. You are helping this truth reach the ones who need it most. So truly, thank you. Thank you for arriving. Thank you for trusting the pull. And Cancer, believe me when I tell you, you will want to stay with me until the end of this message. Because what the universe is beginning to reveal is not just beautiful, it is breathtaking in a way that only the truth can be. So now I ask you, my gentle, quietly powerful Cancer, what did your soul move through to bring you here right now? Let us begin to uncover it together. There is strength in the choices you made when no one saw you, in the roads you walked without applause. Your life has not been drifting. It has been under the gaze of something higher, not to judge you, but to magnify your grace. In all the moments where surrender would have been easier, where bitterness could have grown roots, others may have mistaken your stillness for pause. But the truth is, you were never idle. You were being seen deeply through the sacred lens of divine alignment. Every time you gave with open hands, even in scarcity, every time you chose empathy instead of ease, every time you kept your peace instead of striking back, you etched something eternal into the story of your spirit. This was not just endurance, it was sacred stewardship. You have been making deposits into a treasury that never forgets. In energy work, we come to understand something Cancer has known all along. That emotion is not invisible. It carries weight. It hums beneath the surface. And frequency, once released, does not vanish. It leaves a trail, a residue, a pulse that lingers long after the moment has passed. The universe does not respond to performance or appearance. It listens to what is steady, what is sustained, what holds true over time. So when your heart gave, even as it throbbed with quiet ache, your arms offered more, even while they trembled from giving too much. When your spirit stood upright, even as your knees nearly buckled beneath you, none of it was weakness. Those were not cracks. They were vibrations of integrity so real, so raw, they sent out a signal through the fabric of time itself. Your life became a living prayer, not spoken, but embodied. And now that prayer is beginning to return to you, shaped by everything you poured into it. In astrology, Cancer is not just the sign of nurturing, it is the sacred steward of emotion. Your chart has often placed you in long, quiet corridors where you were asked not how loudly you could shine, but how quietly you could remain faithful. You have been tested in how deeply you trust your empathy, how long you are willing to protect and wait, and how much you are willing to offer without immediate reward. What the world has often mistaken as hesitation in a Cancer's life is not misfortune. It is divine craftsmanship. The process was never broken. The tide was just pulling back to gather strength. And now the shift that is arriving will not roar like thunder. It will feel like coming home after years of wandering in the cold. Not because everything around you has changed in a flash, but because you, Cancer, will finally feel aligned with the emotional harvest that has been forming beneath the surface for seasons. It is easy, especially in a world obsessed with quick wins and public applause, to forget that the most enduring transformations rarely make noise. You were never meant to be measured by how visible your success looked. You were always meant to be felt through the quiet gravity of your compassion, through the way you stood by it, even when it cost you comfort, relationships, opportunities, everything. And it did cost you. There were years when you moved through the world, carrying your feelings like a hidden treasure, heavy and unseen. You were overlooked, misunderstood, even mocked for feeling too deeply, loving too much, caring too hard. But none of that was punishment. It was the slow fire of purification. And perhaps behind closed doors where no one could witness, there were moments when you felt like the last one left behind, left out, or simply left. You questioned your worth. You questioned your timing. You wondered if your pace, your depth, your tenderness had any place in this sharp, fast-moving world. But even in those lonely moments, something inside you refused to close. Even if it was faint, a flicker, a breath, a whisper, you chose not to harden. That tiny choice, made without audience or fanfare, was a sacred act of rebellion. You defied a culture addicted to shortcuts. You stayed slow, you stayed open, you stayed real. That was your faith, not quoted from books, but lived. And if life is anything like the ocean you belong to, then its rhythm tells a deeper story. The tide recedes, it holds, it waits, and one day the ship comes in. Cancer, this is that day. This is the season of arrival. Not because you outworked others, but because you remained true when no one was looking. Because you trusted the long road when quick exits were everywhere. Because you stayed honest, soft, and devoted, even when all you had was belief, and that belief was never in vain. It mattered. It always mattered. So let this be the moment where you pause, breathe deep, and allow yourself to feel it. You were never off course. You were never forgotten. You were being shaped slowly, wisely, so that when abundance comes, you will not flinch or shrink from it. You will not wonder if you deserve it. You will know. You will remember every quiet act of kindness, every moment of restraint, every brave decision to stay tender when the world told you to grow hard. That, Cancer, is what it means to be spiritually rich long before the physical world catches up to the truth you have already lived. Sometimes, Cancer, the universe waits not for you to look ready, but for you to be ready from the inside out. It does not respond to surface, shine, or public applause. It listens for the hum beneath your skin, the steadiness of your inner roots, and now, something long promised is beginning to move toward you. Not by accident, not by a stroke of luck, but as a long-awaited return, a sacred repayment for everything you gave without asking for anything in return, for every act of quiet strength, for every moment you stayed open when the world made it easier to shut down. This is the energy that shaped your harvest. What is arriving is not a prize plucked from thin air. It is a transfer, one that began in the unseen and is now rippling into the physical. But this shift is not a reward for working harder than everyone else. It is the result of rising into resonance, of your frequency finally becoming a match for the very thing you have long been cultivating in silence. Your energy has ripened, Cancer. You have been living inside the story of your worth for years, even when no one else could see the plot. Through heartbreak, through stillness, through repetition and restraint, you were fine-tuning your signal, and now the universe hears you loud and clear. You never needed to chant your value aloud each day. The way you held your integrity became your offering. Your life itself whispered the truth, and that is how reality begins to shift. Not with a shout, but with alignment. When your inner landscape settles, the world has no choice but to mirror that calm. And that is what is unfolding now. The outside world is finally catching up to the transformation that has already matured inside you. And when these gifts begin to show up, they may look miraculous to others, but to you, Cancer, they will feel familiar, like something you forgot you planted. A relationship you thought had gone cold, suddenly warming with understanding and appreciation. A creative opportunity you had put aside, now finding the right audience. A family issue, once lost in limbo, now shifting in your favor, like the tides clearing the shore. Perhaps it will come from a quiet corner of your family tree, a relative whose name you half remember, leaving behind a blessing just when you need it most. These are not coincidences. These are divine fulfillments rooted in soil you have been tending for years. The universe rarely delivers through fireworks. It prefers the ordinary path that has been under your feet all along, now suddenly illuminated by rightness. In tarot, this moment glows with the essence of cards like the moon, trusting your deep intuition after a long drought of self-doubt. The chariot, your earned wisdom to move forward with emotional control and purpose. And the Ace of Cups, the first overflow from the heart, not gifted for show, but offered for nurturing. This is not an ending. It is a beginning. And yes, it looks like abundance, but it also asks for presence. It asks you to meet it with care, with patience, with the same love you gave in the dark. What comes next is not just money. It is meaning wrapped in material form. It is momentum born from maturity. For those who misread your stillness as stagnation, who called your sensitivity too weak, your trust too naive, this new season may feel like a correction. But you are not rising to make a statement. You are rising because it is time. This elevation is not to prove them wrong. It is to prove your truth right. You are becoming evidence that tending to truth, even silently, even slowly, always bears fruit. Your glow is not revenge. It is revelation. It is the signal that grace was never wasted on you. In this world of noise and speed, where people are taught to hustle, to strive, to scramble for every inch, your path has been different. You did not claw your way forward. You rooted down. You trusted the slow unfolding. You believed that patience was not a delay tactic, but a sacred process. And maybe someone needs that reminder today. That quiet does not mean powerless. That waiting is not the same as wasting. That faith, when it grows deep enough, moves more than force ever could. Let this next chapter of your life be the soft but certain affirmation that it was never for nothing, that your stillness had sound, that your journey had shape, and that yes, the blessing felt delayed, but it was never denied. And yes, Cancer, it is finally blooming into form. There are patterns that take root in us long before we know to question them. Cancer, much of what you have carried, the emotional burdens, the feeling of always needing to care for others first, may not have started with you at all. But somewhere along the way, those energies found a place to live within you until now. The struggles you have faced with giving and receiving, with setting boundaries, or with your sense of worth might not be the result of your choices, but echoes of quiet agreements passed down through the soil of your bloodline, patterns woven before you were even born. Some energy practitioners refer to these inherited imprints as emotional covenants, unspoken vows made by your ancestors during moments of desperation, grief, or loss. Maybe there was a grandparent who came to believe that showing emotion only brought pain, or a distant relative who lost everything and promised to never trust fully again. These beliefs, born from survival, do not just live in memory. They pass through energy. They shape the way we love, the way we give, the way we receive, and more quietly still, they shape what we believe we are worthy of. Within the rhythms of cosmic timing, these patterns often repeat, like ancient songs in cycles of 7 or 14 years. A promising relationship followed by unexplained distance. An opportunity to be seen that evaporates without reason. You may have even found yourself asking, why does this always happen to me? The truth is, Cancer, you have been carrying a story that did not begin with you, a code stitched into your energetic makeup before you had the language to untangle it. And yet, you were never born to carry this forward. You were born to heal something entirely new. This is where your soul's work begins. Unlike others, your gift is not to weigh the past, it is to reshape it. You hold the wisdom of water, quiet, deep, undeniable. You are not here to continue what has been repeated. You are here to be the pause, the emotional reset, the one who says, "This ends here." That is not rebellion, that is sacred reclamation. You were placed within this lineage with purpose, to face, heal, and transmute the emotional wounds that have traveled through your family tree, not just for you, but for those who came before and those yet to come. It may look like a personal burden, but beneath that surface, it is a holy assignment. And this is not about blame, it is about vision. No one meant to bind the future. They were only trying to survive what the past demanded of them. But now you are awakening. You are feeling the weight of patterns that no longer belong in your hands. You are questioning, choosing differently, and that, even when it feels slow or subtle, is a crack of light breaking through centuries of inherited sorrow. That is what makes you the pivot, the anchor, the heart of your lineage. You are living proof that energetic contracts can be rewritten and ancestral burdens can be released. In today's world, we often forget just how deep these roots run. But when you start noticing your own resistance to receiving, that subtle shrinking when something good comes your way, that impulse to overgive, to delay, to self-sabotage, those are not flaws. They are echoes. And when you stop repeating the echo, you begin to dissolve it. Cancer, no divine force ever created you to live small. You were formed with the strength to hold love, wellness, and inner peace in full harmony. This is your birthright, not a rare privilege, not something others get and you admire from afar. True freedom has little to do with money and everything to do with knowing that you are no longer tied to the fears and vows of those who came before. You are not stuck in an old agreement. You are standing on new ground. You are being called to write a different kind of contract, one that reflects who you really are, not what history demanded of you. From here forward, let your actions carry that knowing. Let yourself receive without guilt, love without dread. Give not from depletion, but from fullness, from a place where worth is no longer up for debate. And when resistance rises up, do not panic, Cancer. Do not mistake it for failure. Just pause, breathe, come back into your body. Remember, this moment is not just about healing yourself. It is about unwinding an entire memory held in the bones of your lineage. That is not pressure. That is purpose, and it belongs to you now, steady, sacred, and deeply earned. Not everything that glimmers is meant for your hands. Just before the earth finally yields the fruit you have been nurturing for seasons, life will often place one last invitation before you, not as a trap, but as a pause, a checkpoint to see if you have truly become the one who can receive with both hands open and a heart that knows its worth. This is not punishment. It is a sacred still point, asking, are you ready to receive what matches your full embodiment? Sometimes the test is quiet. It wears the mask of opportunity, a partnership, an offer, a promise that shines brightly but feels off-kilter. It looks good on paper, but your gut says otherwise. Your shoulders tense, your chest tightens, your breath grows shallow. That inner tug, that pause in your body, is not fear. It is wisdom. It is your nature speaking clearly. Honor it. You do not owe anyone your yes, just because something looks like progress. You owe yourself alignment, first and always. Other times, the test arrives wrapped in memory, a familiar voice from the past. A person who once took more than they gave now returns softer, saying all the right things. But Cancer, Your growth is not measured by how forgiving you are. It is measured by how clearly you can recognize who no longer belongs in your space. You did not come this far just to hand the keys of your peace back to someone who never knew how to hold it. This is not about bitterness. It is about boundaries. You are allowed to protect what you have built. You do not need to explain. Your stillness is your answer. Your space is your clarity. Your energy, now more than ever, is currency, and you must spend it wisely. Sometimes the final test is tucked inside the smallest choices. Do you still offer generosity when your own cup is not yet full? Do you move forward in faith when the external signs still look incomplete? Do you trust the seed is growing even before the sprout breaks through? This is not a test of perfection. It is a test of embodiment. The universe is whispering. Can you walk as the one who already knows, not guesses, that the harvest is on its way? And for this moment of preparation, control is not your tool. Alignment is. Strengthen your nervous system in simple, nourishing ways. Begin your mornings in silence. Just 10 minutes of conscious breath before the world begins. Its noise will help you hear yourself again. Sip something warm and comforting in herbal tea with chamomile or lavender. Let it settle your system. Let it remind you that you are held. Add magnesium to your daily ritual to support the body where stress quietly hides. Move not frantically, but intentionally. Even 15 minutes of gentle movement can shake loose the tension your mind forgot to release. And when the day presses heavy on your shoulders, return to your breath, your body, your sacred knowing. This is your quiet devotion, the real work, the way you stay rooted in peace while reaching for more. From a tarot perspective, this season is echoed in 3 cards that speak to your unfolding. The Hermit, the wisdom of turning inward to hear your own voice above the noise. Strength, not brute force, but calm resolve. The kind that comes from knowing you can pause without losing momentum. And the World, the completion of a major cycle and the integration of all you have learned. This is the soul's reckoning with worth, and it is being made real within you. You are no longer negotiating your value. You are living it. You are no longer trading your truth for comfort. You are honoring what has taken root. These moments, they may seem small, but they mark the turn. They are the hinge points where everything shifts. Because the moment you choose from your rooted self, from who you have become rather than who you once were, the universe responds not with hesitation, but with release, with movement, with the gates swinging open. This is not reaction. This is resonance. And Cancer, that is the signal. That is what tells the universe you are no longer waiting. You are ready. What shifts first is never the number in your bank account, Cancer. It is the belief rooted deep inside your body, the one that tells the soil how much it is allowed to bloom. By now, you can feel it. The quiet, powerful reprogramming happening just beneath your ribs. You are not just recovering from old patterns. You are being rewired. You have released the ancestral vows. You have stood still through the storm. And now, the air around you is clearing. But here's the part most people never speak of, the part that matters most. Adjusting your nervous system to receive what you have long been asking for. Because once your energy shifts, the world around you follows. Not by luck, not by a spell, but by the law of frequency. Resonance is the architect. Form simply fills in the blueprint. You are not just becoming someone who holds wealth. You are becoming the kind of person who knows what to do with it, who holds it with grounded clarity, who moves with intention, who knows the value of stillness before decision. This is not about gold-plated dreams or performative abundance. This is about alignment, choosing what feels deeply true to your worth. If you have always reached for the cheapest option out of fear, guilt, or habit, you may have unknowingly taught your body, "I do not deserve more." These messages live in the cells, but you can rewrite them slowly, consciously. You do not need to leap, just rise, one step at a time. Replace those threadbare towels with a set that makes you feel warm and whole. Brew the tea that soothes your chest instead of settling for what is left in the back of the cabinet. Choose the pen that makes your hand feel grounded when you write, not to impress, not to perform, but to say to yourself, "I honor who I am becoming." Your space holds your frequency. The textures, the scents, the arrangement of what surrounds you, it all speaks to the field you are sending out. So when you clean, rearrange, or replace with care, you are not just tending a room, you are rewriting your magnetic code. Refresh your home, not because it is worn, but because it is about to become sacred, a vessel for giving and receiving in equal rhythm. Touch it with reverence. Let it become a quiet altar of worth. Every small shift is a new message to your subconscious. We do things differently now. And something remarkable begins to unfold when you give this shift a voice. Writing, especially by hand, carries a vibration that moves from thought to matter. Each morning, take a moment to write one sentence. "I am someone who creates safety with my love." Let those words find their way into the architecture of your day. Before each decision, each interaction, pause and ask, "Does this serve my life? Does this support the life I am building?" Because when you begin to link love with meaning, it no longer owns you. It no longer drives you from fear. It becomes what it was always meant to be. A servant of what is sacred, a tool for your peace, a path to your grounded growth. I have seen stories like yours more times than I can count, Cancer. There was a woman I once worked with, steady, quiet, faithful. For over a decade, she began each morning with a prayer. She gave even when she had almost nothing left to give. One week, she offered her last bit of energy to someone who needed it more, not expecting a return, just following the pull in her chest. A few days later, she uploaded a video sharing her journey. No strategy, no expectation, just truth. That video reached a stranger, someone who saw her heart and offered her a creative contract worth 200 times what she had given. Her harvest did not come because of the action alone. It arrived because her energy had finally softened into full alignment with receiving. And so the earth returned what she had planted. This is the center of your shift, Cancer. You are not receiving wealth to escape your pain. You are receiving it to build something meaningful, something stable, rooted, generational. This is not just a windfall. This is seed money for the vision your soul has held in its palms for years. A garden, a gathering place, a business, a service, a sanctuary. Whatever form your devotion takes, this wealth is its nourishment. That is why it is showing up now, not earlier. Because only now are you truly ready not just to spend, but to lead with it. You are here to shape new systems, to grow new structures, to show the world what integrity-built wealth actually feels like: grounded, generous, and deeply human. And to support this rise, let yourself dress and live like the person who already knows their value. This week, choose colors that mirror your emergence. Silver, the shade of calm power, intuition, and the moon's wisdom. And pearl, a gem formed through pressure, time, and patience. Just like you. You are not just here to have prosperity. You are here to steward it. The world does not need more wealth hoarders. It needs steady hands like yours, hearts that know how to lead without ego, give without depletion, and build from a place of embodied purpose. This is your season of becoming. Step into it fully. And when we reach this moment together, Cancer, it is not just the end of a video. It is the beginning of a deeper personal truth. You have walked a long, quiet path, often unseen, often misunderstood. But that path was never wasted. It taught you to trust your own rhythm, even when no one else believed in it. You were not just surviving, you were being prepared. Every time you chose integrity over urgency, every time you said yes to faith instead of fear, it was recorded, it was multiplied. And now it is returning not as charity, but as natural law. Not because you begged for it, but because you became someone who could hold it. You do not need permission to rise. You do not owe the world an explanation for your success. You do not need to shrink to make others comfortable. You are the reset point in your family line. The one who chose not to repeat, but to root. That power is not a future version of you. It is already here. The only thing left is to accept it not with guilt, but with grounded joy. Not with doubt, but with quiet knowing. So pause now, Cancer. Place your hand over your chest. Breathe and ask yourself honestly, what would shift today if I believed I was already living in the vibration of wealth, clarity, and sacred fulfillment? How would I move through my morning? Who would I allow into my field? What would I no longer settle for? Not because I am afraid, but because I know the universe has already said yes. Let those questions walk with you. Let them gently unravel what no longer fits. Let them soften the parts of you still clinging to old scarcity stories. And if even a quiet part of your being whispers, yes, then anchor that moment. Write it in the comments below. I accept my new destiny. Let that be your public vow to yourself, your agreement with the path ahead. Let it be your clear, grounded signal to the universe. I am no longer asking, I am claiming. I am no longer seeking permission. I am stepping into position. And as you do, know this, you are not walking alone. Every soul who resonates with this message, who feels called by this frequency, is part of something bigger. A quiet revolution, a community of builders, not dreamers, people who lead with presence, not performance. And if this message helped you feel seen, if it lit something within you, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone whose spirit might be waiting for confirmation too. Because you never know, your single share could be someone else's turning point. There is no rescue on the way, Cancer, because you are the rescue. You are the harvest your ancestors never saw, the prayer whispered in kitchens long forgotten. You are the seed and the bloom, the ache and the arrival. And yes, the money that is coming may shift your reality, but you have already shifted the field. This is your time not just to receive, but to root, to rise, to rebuild, not only for yourself, but for something lasting. So take that next step, not because everything is perfect, but because you are aligned in all the ways that matter. Trust the version of you that got here. Trust the unfolding. And remember, you were never just meant to live a better life. You were meant to build a better world. One grounded step at a time, one breath of belief at a time, one miracle planted in faith at a time. Now go nurture what no one else dared to dream and let it rise.